Good morning and welcome to the latest part of my series of videos of constructing the DJH A8 kit. And if you remember from the last time, we assembled the main parts of the body, so we had something to work with. What I've done is, you may be able to see what I did after, was I actually assembled the handrails, the driver's handrails, because if you remember I said I damaged one of the lugs that the handrails go through because they are very fragile. So to avoid any further damage, I assembled the handrails, which are 0.5mm wire, and to give it a bit of detailing I added a 14BA washer at the bottom to make it look like the stand that these stanchions attached to. So that's what was left from the last time. I've cleaned it up somewhat, and it's not looking too bad. So today what we're going to do is we're going to carry on with page 7 of the instructions, and we're going to fit the rear bunker handrail steps, etc. I'm not going to fit the angle iron because the locomotives actually hang at angle iron to support the tanks at this stage in their lives, and the kit doesn't cater for this. You only get the uprights which fit to the tank and not the bits which should be on the footplate, and I haven't got any suitable material to fabricate these, so they're going to have to wait for a little while until I can get some suitable brass strip for that. So we're going to do the bunker rear, finish the bunker rear off. We're going to fit the cab doors, and we are going to fit the surrounds round the cab openings, so the front and rear cab windows and the surround round the cab on the outside. Now if you remember correctly, I said that you follow, best thing to do with these particular locomotives is to get a photo of your chosen prototype. You saw the big one that I blew up of my one, and I have found some other ones which are not suitable really for reproduction, but I've noted down up here the pertinent details from the photographs. Now the cab windows, you can have a number of variations for these. Some of them are split. They had one little bit of the window that opened. They can be full, or they can be a mixture of the two. Now what I'm going to do with this one, I'm going to do it as the kit is, because that falls in line with my chosen prototype. So it's got split window frames at the rear, which are these etched parts, which are pretty let's try and get it a bit closer. Yeah, there you go. So it's a split at the rear, a hole at the front, and then you have the cab aperture surrounds, 2 of those, 2 cab doors, the rear cab stanchions for the handrail, rear cab steps, and there are a couple of other very small bits which I won't attempt to pick up because they'll probably go flying everywhere. It is, and it will be, a comfort for you that there are a certain number of spares for these items. So there are spare cab window surrounds, there's the front and the rear, there's spares. There's spares of the step backings. There's various other spare items which they're marked with an S on the plan at the front, because the etchings, the etching sheets, the etch sheets do not have any marks etched on them. So what you will need to do is you'll need to continually refer to these pages at the front of the instructions which actually shows you where all the necessary parts are. I would certainly say be careful, and if you're not sure, of course, double check that the part that you're about to use is the correct part before you actually solder it in place and find that you need to remove it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go away, I'm going to start adding these parts, and what I will do is I will stop while I'm doing it and show you the various bits and pieces, and as usual any pitfalls that I've come across in the course of assembling the bits that we're going to do now. So if you just bear with me, go away, I'll fit a few bits and then come back and discuss with you what I've done. So the first part that I've fitted, I don't know if you can see, but I've fitted the loops for the Bunker vertical stanchions, handrails. Now these come as an etched part which you fold over the top, and there are two slots, or there should be two slots in your bunker rear that they fit through. It's quite feasible to, if they've been filled with solder, to drill them out with a 0.5mm drill carefully, but these parts fit only one way up, and they fit from the bunker, from inside the bunker. So you may come across a bit of a difficulty if the insides of your bunker, where you've soldered, where you've attached the bunker rear to the sides, is not particularly tidy. It needs to be as smooth as possible with the least amount of solder evident, because the flat side, which you may just be able to see, that it's sort of shaped like that. The flat side needs to go hard up against the bunker side, and you will not be able to get a good fit if there's an excess of solder on the inside of your bunker. So I had to spend a little bit of time cleaning up, but again I use a bullet shaped stainless steel brush and Dremel, and that seems to clean up the solder quite efficiently. So that's what I've done with the first one. I've fitted that on the other side. I'll just go away and fit the other one, and then we'll move on to some other parts, and again, if I come across any difficulties, I will record a segment showing you any difficulty that I've come across and how I've in particular have overcome them. So moving on with the rear stanchion, I've fitted the wire for this one. If you have aligned the two edge parts that I've shown you correctly, they should line up with a hole which is in the underside of the footplate, and the handrail wire actually unusually inserts from below the buffer beam. So you insert it from below the buffer beam and then solder it as you would in the normal way. Obviously you can't do it from the top with the bunker flare, but provided you have lined the bottom stanchion parts up correctly, there shouldn't be any difficulty. You can drill out the holes 0.5mm, and that fits the wire. 0.5mm wire in the kit is brass. The nickel silver thin wire is 0.4, which you're going to need later for the lubricator piping. Okay, so those are the two rear stanchions fitted. I'll put that aside, then I'll fit some more bits and then show you what I've done. Right, so I've moved on, and you can probably just see that I've fitted the two rear footsteps. Each one consists of two parts. there are tabs which fit in the bunker, which you can probably see, and I need to point out to you that the parts that are the backs for the steps, which are marked as part 100, E100 on the instructions, they are slightly wider than the footsteps. So what happens is that when you fit them, they fit behind the uprights. So you bend the up using whatever your method. I use the hold and fold, but before you solder the steps to the rear bunker, you will need to sandwich this very small half-etch part E100. You'll need to sandwich that behind the footsteps. There is a bit of give in the tabs to allow you to do this, because if you add the bit after, the part is wider than the steps, so you need, well, wider than the gap in the steps, so you will need to trim it or lift the steps off the bunker rear, having already soldered them, and then fit the part in beneath it. I will probably have to change the bunker handrails, because it turns out that they are becoming quite vulnerable to the goings on the rear of the bunker. So it might be an advantage also to leave the two handrails till after all the parts are added to the bunker. Like I said, they're easy to fit. You fit them up through the buffer beam, and there's plenty of 0.5mm wire in the kit, so if they do get damaged, it's not going to cause you any problems to replace them. So I fitted the front steps. All that's left now to do is to fit the handrail across the rear, for which in the kit you get 3 turned brass handrail knobs, which are so small I'm not going to show you, and they fit together with 0.7mm wire. So I'm going to go away and do that now, and then when I've cleaned it all up, I'll show you what I've done. Okay, so we've been away and we have cleaned up the rear bunker somewhat. I'll go and give it a wash in a moment in the bathroom. We've fitted the 2 rear window surrounds. Best way that I found to fit these is to pre-tin them, keep them as flat as you possibly can, and then check from the inside of the cab that the windows fully seat. They don't actually seat in anything, but they are exactly, the inside is exactly the same size as the aperture in the cab rear, so they are pretty easy to line up, and to solder, just tack solder them in one place and then adjust them as necessary until they're perfectly lined up. Same goes for the front cab window surrounds, pre-tinned, fitted, lined up with the aperture in the cab front, which is exactly the right size, tack soldered in one place, adjusted as necessary, and then soldered around the inside. The cab surrounds are, again, they're a little bit more tricky than the windows, but as long as you're patient and you line them up, there's no problem. They sit on the outside of the cab side, and they're exactly the right size for the cutout. Again, line them up. What you will need to do probably is they overhang the cab entrance somewhat, and it is necessary to actually bend them round to follow the profile of the bits that you folded out that support the cab stanchions. Just bend them around, and then again I just used, my wife gave me a new nail file, just use that to dress off the ends so that they flow round, not you have two square bits ending in the middle of nowhere. Just dress them around so they follow the profile of the cab supports. And then last but by no means least, you've got the cab doors. So there are 3 tabs that stick out from the cab side. There are 3 cutouts in the cab doors which are half etched. The actual doors are half etched and are relatively easily bent, so take care with these. And all I did was just sit the doors on the 3 prongs, so you've got 3 prongs sticking up, sit the doors on there with the etch detail on the outside, and then it's a question of just folding the tabs over as carefully as you can. For that I use tweezers rather than pliers, so that there's a little bit of a curl in the ends nearest the cab door, and then while maintaining that, I used some 0.4mm wire that I had spare, so you've got a bit of a hinge. Then squeeze the remainders of the tab up against the cab return and then solder them, and then you get 2 operating cab doors. And obviously if you don't want to do that, just solder them. If you want them closed, just solder them on the cab front side, but I'm going to leave them so they work, which I think is always quite a nice feature on a locomotive. And that is that. So as far as I can see from this, as I mentioned, apart from the bits down here which are marked as E66, E65 and E67, which are the tank strengthening pieces, which I said that I'm not going to add because the ones in the kit are incorrect. It was actually angle iron and they should overhang the cab footplate to quite a I mean, it's about 2-inch overlap on the real thing. So I'm going to leave that bit for the moment until I can get some suitable strip material to make the return bit over the cab footplate. And so that's page 7 complete, and that is the end of this video. Apologies for it being so brief, but that's the way it is, I'm afraid, at the moment. So when we come back, when I come back, then we will start on the detailing at the front of the footplate, which consists of white metal and a certain number of etch parts, and there is quite a reasonable amount of preparation that I need to do this, because there's no indication of the extra lubricator pipe work which will be necessary to do this complete, to make this complete in the instructions. So we refer to our pictures, we'll refer to the Yeadon's book if we need any other variations, and that's what we will start to do the next time. So thank you for watching, and please watch out for another video of this. Oh, and just quickly before I go, because she's in a suitable position, you met Boris in the one of the earlier programs, so I'm just going to show you. This is our other greyhound. This is our other greyhound. This is our other greyhound down here, the black lump, she's called Elsie. She's a bit older than Boris, and she doesn't always come up and sit with me when I'm working, but she has today. So again, thank you for watching, and please watch out for more videos for building the DJH A8 kits, which I will hopefully do again next weekend. Thank you.